We speak today with Mike Kunkle, a sales transformation architect and an internationally recognized expert on sales training, sales effectiveness, and sales enablement. He spent 36 years in the sales profession and 26 years as a corporate leader or consultant, helping companies drive dramatic revenue growth through best-in-class training strategies and proven effective sales transformation systems. Mike is the founder of Transforming Sales Results LLC and today works as the Vice President of Sales Effectiveness Services for Sparks IQ, where he advises clients, publishes thought leadership, speaks at conferences, leads webinars, develops sales training courses, delivers workshops, and designs and implements sales enablement systems. Mike, delighted to have you on this discussion. It's a critical discussion which we don't have enough of. But before that, I'm really happy that you are here. Welcome.
Thank you, Subhanjan. I am really glad to be here. And you're right, this is a very important topic, and I'm glad to be talking about it with you today.
So before we actually dive in, tell our audience a bit about the work you're doing at Sparks IQ right now, just to give them a sense of where your mind is these days.
Sure, absolutely. I'm the Vice President of Sales Effectiveness Services for Sparks IQ. We are client-facing and help our customers improve sales performance. We do that through diagnostics, better hiring, training, coaching, and managing. And currently, I'm working on getting a new course on sales coaching excellence out the door with our studio team that does very high-quality video productions. And I'm authoring the next course on the sales management system, how to get into an operating system and a rhythm and a cadence with sales managers so they can more effectively support the sales force.
What you just said, it makes this conversation that we're going to have now so much more valuable, because part of what we're going to talk is what you do or look at every day, right? B2B conversion, that is from lead to close, can vary between 1.8% to below 10%.
Mm-hmm.
The comfort that we have today as an industry, that is the sales organization side, with the 5% number seems strange. What got us here, Mike?
Well, first of all, I find it fascinating that you've been talking to so many people about this, and I think it is a huge problem for the profession. And the fact that we accept it, think about what the customer acquisition costs must be in many of these organizations if they're converting somewhere between 1 and 10%, and most commonly 5%. Now, in terms of what got us here, let me share a line of thinking. When I knew we were going to talk about this, I thought, well, what is it? What's the faulty logic that helped us get here, right? So this is what I came up with. If Chet Holmes was right, and only 3% of the market is ready to buy what you sell at any given time, 5% is pretty good, right?
Yes, absolutely. Right? Absolutely, yeah.
Now, the problem is that's true if what you sell is targeting this entire market. And I think that's some of what got us here. It's this shotgun marketing, shotgun selling, right? Playing the numbers game. I think about myself on LinkedIn. I get approached on LinkedIn on a daily basis with these pitches just coming at me left and right. And what's really funny, Subhanjan, is a lot of them are for things that I've never bought in my entire career. It's completely terrible marketing and social marketing and selling. Right? Because I got a 10-paragraph in-mail one time from a first-degree connection, someone who connected with me first and had complete access to all the information in my profile. And they sent me this 10-paragraph in-mail to buy IT services that in my entire career I've never purchased. And it started with, "Dear Lisa." So this is part of the problem, right? It's this templated, toss it out, shotgun marketing, just trying to get these hits. And I think about what that must be doing to the people who are doing the selling. The massive amount of rejection and ghosting that goes on is can't be easy for them to deal with. The customer acquisition costs and the wasted time and energy and resources and talent that go into this whole mess. It's and now, even though I'm a huge fan of technology and sales technology, and in some cases automation and AI and machine learning and all the advancements that are being made, although I think many of those are still coming soon to a sales technology near you. I think we've overblown the effectiveness of some of those capabilities right now. But I think they furthered the problem in the wrong hands because they're misused. And it all becomes part of how many people can I get this message out to, looking for my 3% who might actually be ready to buy, rather than approaching the market with insights in ways that problems they're having, solutions that they may be looking for, or maybe they're not even aware that they have a problem yet, but you can offer insights about other customers in similar situations and ways you can serve. There are things that we could be doing to be a whole lot more effective than 5% conversion.
Absolutely. There's this Gartner report, which all of us are familiar with, which talks about that the buyer today. I'm not talking about the buyer's journey being completed 70%. That's well known. But the another part of that report says the buyer today keeps aside only 17% of his entire buying decision making time for vendors, and
Mm-hmm.
that 17% is for the 5 or 6 vendors he's going to spend time with.
Yep.
So your ability to add value has diminished significantly because of the internet. I mean, internet has intermediated all kinds of information, and it's the same for B2B as well. Uh, you are talking of adding value. So are we doing it like too late into the journey? Are we sort of this approach that we just mentioned of shotgun approach, are we sort of spraying and praying that I'll hit something where I will be able to go and do something to add value? Build trust is one of the catchphrases we have these days. Build trust, because customers buy on trust. Yet we believe that we have no time to build the trust. So we believe that if we go and tell him, oh, in your profile I saw that, for example, if I came to you and said, oh, Mike, I thought you were writing a book, and that would be it. And after that, I'm into my pitch to you because I thought I built my trust by showing you that I know that you're writing a book. Do you see that we are completely out of sync with what's going on?
Yes, I think buying has been changing slowly for years. I mean, when I was at Richardson in 2013, 2014, helping design their Selling with Insights program, we were talking about the impact that the internet had. We were talking about the changes in buying behavior, and those changes have continued. Buying behavior has continued to evolve to the point where now I see numbers. I used to see, what was it? At one point, we used to joke about 5.4 buyers
Yeah,
in a buying journey, and we used to joke about, who was the point four, right? Uh,
exactly.
but now I see numbers. I've seen 6.7, I've seen 9, I've seen a dozen,
Yeah.
and I haven't seen it yet, but I heard someone else talking about a number closer to 20. So I know Forrester has just published something about, your buyer is no longer a person, it's a group. We've been talking about buying committees at Sparks IQ. I think there's a little danger in that because sales still has to get to the person level with buying process exit criteria. But there are more and more buyers. They're buying and spending more and more of their time digitally. We keep hearing that they don't necessarily trust, to your point about building trust, they don't trust the collateral and information that comes from the sales rep, nor sometimes the company. They are reaching more out to peers to get
Yeah.
advice. So by this way that we've been selling, by just trying to get people to demos for the tech companies, or by just spraying and praying and throwing out these messages to so many people and doing it poorly, we have damaged the sales profession's reputation over a long period of time, a lot of years. If we're going to turn that corner, if we're going to elevate the sales profession, and we're going to not be replaced by a button or an app at some point, or in this digital buyer journey, you're absolutely right that it comes down to building trust and adding value. And to do that, we have to step back, right, strategically in organizations to do the stuff that we should have been doing all along. Who is the target market? How much buyer acumen do we really have inside our sales organizations? How do we really understand the buyer personas? Who are the buyers that are involved in the deals? What's their coin op, as we call it at Sparks IQ? What are the challenges they face or the opportunities they have to capitalize on? What's the impact of not solving the challenge or not capitalizing on the opportunity? What needs does that create for the organization or that buyer? What are the outcomes that they'd like to achieve in a desired future state that they're aiming for? And how would they prioritize those needs and outcomes? If you can get buyer personas built that help you understand that, even at a generic level, because sales will go deeper to the personal level, and then you understand what's the journey that they take. What does their buying process look like? And I know it's an amalgam, right? It's a mashup of various ones, but there are stages that most will go through. And no, it's not linear, and no, it's not easy, but there are stages and a flow to it. And then in each one of those stages, if you think about let's say in this one deal, there's 4 personas. What is their exit criteria per stage? And exit criteria is just a geeky term from Six Sigma and product development, but it means what does each one of those decision makers need to see, hear, feel, understand, or believe in this current stage to feel comfortable moving forward to the next stage with you? And if you can get that at a generic level, that helps you start to build your buyer engagement content, your marketing messages, your prospecting approaches, and things that can actually start to capture the interest of your buyers. And then, of course, you're targeting the right personas and the right markets rather than doing the shotgun marketing out to everyone. So, Panjan, we teach a prospecting method that we say you need to strike a pose. And POSE, P-O-S-E, is an acronym for what's the problem that buyers like the ones you're calling generally face or are struggling with. And you have to think about the opportunities too. What are the outcomes that you have provided for other buyers that had that problem? What's the problem that you solved? What are the outcomes you delivered? What solution was it? Very briefly, not feature dumping, not product pitching, but what solution solved that problem and delivered those outcomes? Would they like to explore more? Would it make sense to look more deeper at that? And so rather than firing off, here's my company, here's what we do, all about me, you flip it to a buyer-centric approach and talk about the problems that, when I've talked to other CEOs like you, what they're facing in the market right now is this, and the struggle they're having is this. Is that something that you're working on too? And even if they say no, then you have an opportunity to say, that's interesting. I'm glad to hear that you've solved that challenge. What are the top of mind things for you right now? Right? And you're really flipping it around to what matters to them. And then from a sales perspective, if you do your research up front and call planning, what's your objective? What's your backup objective? Why are you taking the approach you're going to be taking? What is the pose statement that you're going to develop for this buyer? And when you get the interest, you do that detailed discovery with coin up and do a sensible qualification. Now suddenly you are targeting far higher quality deals with buyers who have problems that you can solve. Then, if you understand those exit criteria that I talked about for each of the decision makers, what are the things that are important to them in that stage to help them move forward? Because they're not always the same. And just like these sellers are firing out these messages like a shotgun, they're doing the same thing in opportunity management in each stage. They do the same thing over and over and over, hoping for a great result, sort of like Einstein's definition of insanity, right? And rather than targeting what matters to each of their buyers, meeting those criteria, confirming that you've met them to their satisfaction, and then using that to compel the deal forward and motivate them to take the next step. That to me would be something we could be doing to solve this 5% problem.
What kind of a role do you think this quarterly quota or monthly quota setting and then the actions that have to be taken to supposedly meet them, because nobody meets them? I mean, you know that, I mean, 60% of the SDRs don't make, or AEs don't make 60 or 70% of the quota. So basically that whole process is meaningless, yet we assign a lot of importance to it. Where is the mindset of these sales leaders that you're talking to? What do you see?
Well, I keep in mind, we tend to be working with those who are really looking to take things to another level and address problems that they've got, to find a way to get to higher levels of sales effectiveness and improve their profitability at the same time. So I don't think that the folks that we're working with are probably the best source, because they're really trying to solve these problems and doing the things that I just mentioned. But the ones that we talk to that we don't work with, right, are probably a better indication of what's going out there. And I think you're absolutely right. We are not getting to the root cause problem. We are not slowing down as a profession to zero in. We're not working from strategic to tactical to execution, right? Because you can't start with execution if you don't have the strategy outlined effectively and you don't have a great go-to-market tactical plan, right? And I think there are so many sales leaders today who still prescribe to the harder, faster, longer, louder method of sales management, rather than stepping back and saying, how is it that we're consistently not making quota? Is this a quota problem? Is this a targeting problem? Is this a talent and skills problem? What is the root cause of why we're not making quota on a regular basis, and why we're not able to get, a higher conversion ratio, between lead and win of 5%. I think I liken this to what I saw years ago in the training profession. Trainers were counting butts and seats, right? They were counting these metrics of how many people showed up for classes. They were using level 1 evaluations or smile sheets. How happy were people with the training? But what they weren't doing was focusing on, what impact did my training have? What was the cost versus the improvement in performance and the ROI gain from that? Right? We were counting all the wrong stuff, right? And then performance consulting and human performance technology came along, and I thought that the entire profession was going to gravitate toward that thinking. And a lot did, right? But it's still a bell curve, There are still people just counting butts and seats in those numbers. And I think about how that relates to the sales profession. We're counting the number of dials that someone makes and the number of contacts they have, right? But are they calling the right people? We use a methodology for diagnosis that we call ROAM, ROAM, right? And it starts by looking at your results versus your objectives. And when your results don't meet your objectives and you have a shortfall, then you have to look into it and why. And the two things that I've consistently found that you can look into to get to a root cause, what are the activities that someone is performing? Who are they calling? What is sort of like the who, what, when, where, everything but the how, right? What are the activities they're doing? Who are they doing them with? How much of these activities are they doing? This is all the metric stuff. And if people aren't calling the right buyers, or if they aren't calling in the right volume, you can start to fix that. And if that fixes the problem, great. If that doesn't fix the problem, you have to go beyond the A or the activities to the M or the methodology. Okay, so when they're performing these activities, how are they doing it? What is the level of quality of the methodology that they're using, right? And so that's the ROAM, right? Results versus objectives, the activities and methodologies. And we tend to stop looking at the activities. We're looking at who are I sometimes not even looking at the who. How many people are being called? What's the outcome of that? Measuring the conversion ratios, all of that. But we're not getting to the quality measure or the quality of how those targets are being selected. And so I think we're not getting to root causes, and we have this brute force thinking that we just need to do more. Now we can use technology. Oh, okay, great. Now we can contact, 1,000 more people a day. Well, this is like the old thing about efficiency and effectiveness. If you start working on efficiency first, you can just wind up getting a lot faster at doing horrible things, right?
Absolutely.
Dave Brock calls it doing the stupid faster, right? But if you focus on effectiveness first, and even if you're not doing it in high volumes, if you can slow down and get it right, approach the right buyers who have the problems that you can solve, do it in the right way. Don't just hope that you're going to, be asked to participate in a deal, right? Call and use insights and data, build trust with them, help them see problems and see around the corner, things that that you and your company have done for other customers that you might be able to do for them. It's a completely different approach, right? And so get to effective first and then worry about, okay, now how am I going to do this effective thing a whole lot more?
Right.
That to me would make a lot more sense.
There is no denying that we are in a over communicated world. I mean, we have more communication coming our way than we can handle. We cannot say that, oh, Mike, I couldn't reach you, or I couldn't get in touch with you, or I couldn't tell you something that was on my mind if that was important. It's impossible to say that. If I can't reach your mail, I can reach your LinkedIn. If not that, something else, through someone else. I can reach you if I want to reach you. So this is the world we live in, right? Yet there are two departments within the same organization which apparently don't talk to each other: marketing and sales. What's going on there?
There's one thing that unifies marketing and sales: the customer and the buyers.
Yep.
And that's where it has to start. Marketing is always going to have somewhat different goals than sales does specifically. They do have to align on what a good lead looks like, but marketing has things to consider like PR, like branding. They have things in addition to the demand generation or lead generation that they're doing for sales. But the concept of marketing is to be this big magnet to draw the right, and that's the key word, draw the right buyers and customers to them, people who have problems that our organization can solve. Now, how they do the lead scoring, how they determine whether someone is a contactable lead, right? All of that stuff has to get worked out, and there should be an alliance between marketing and sales where they're working together to define things. Socrates once said the definition of wisdom, right? Or wisdom starts with the definition of terms. And so you have to work together with marketing and sales leaders to define terms, to define what a lead is, to define how they're going to work together. If you do this sort of cross-functional collaboration, and by the way, this is the work that sales enablement leaders should be helping to do, right, is to bring together sales and marketing and the other cross-collaboration functions that support the buyers or support sellers who are working with those buyers, to bring them together and work in an aligned way. That is probably one of the more powerful things that we could be doing as enablers. Now, yes, again, marketing has PR and marketing has advertising and other things, but all of that is in the service of being the big magnet and drawing the right buyers to us, and then helping them, nurturing some of those buyers to become leads for sales. Sales then has to be able to approach those leads in a way that doesn't blow it, that isn't just, coming at them like a ton of bricks or the product pitch, right? But that approaches them with questions, with curiosity. What caused you to look at X, Y, and Z? What are the things that you're working on in your organization? What are the challenges that you foresee or the opportunities that you'd like to capitalize on, right? Finding out what their objectives are, right? And but what we do is someone downloads a white paper, and as fast as humanly possible, because we have stats that show the faster that you contact someone, the more likely you convert. I remember once downloading something from an organization, and before it was done downloading, my phone was ringing. That almost felt a bit more to me like an attack than it did something in service of me. I do appreciate when people reach out. I understand that. But I download a lot of white papers because I'm constantly just trying to read and learn things, and something catches my interest. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm buying or have an interest in it or interest in purchasing it at this time. I'm looking to learn things. I'm looking for different perspectives. So I think we also have to figure out intent, right? And study these buyer patterns to understand which of those, when approached at this time, had a higher likelihood of moving forward into an opportunity. And so I think there are things that, both of the fields, marketing and sales, are advancing, but they're advancing in these different directions. And you're so right, I think, Subhanjan, that we need to pull them together. We need to gain alignment. We need to define terms and figure out how are we both going to work together in support of the customer and the buyer.
Mike, wonderful chatting with you today. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I've enjoyed it, and I hope it helps some of your listeners.